Good evening, everyone. My name is Melissa Raspberry, and I work for the American Institutes for Research, and we have the honor and pleasure of hosting and supporting the CS for All Teachers community. As you see on the screen here, we do want to know who's with us tonight, and we also want to hear from you. So it looks like that folks haven't gotten signed on for audio, but we really do encourage you to do so. You can select for the system to call you, or we can also provide you with a call-in number ourselves, but there's going to be plenty of time for conversation, for asking questions, and you'll be able to do that in the chat window, but we also would love to actually hear from you. So if you need assistance on how to do that, again, you can look at what's on the screen here, or if that option's not working for you, we can provide you with a call-in number. Tonight, we have Nicole Reese-Larson, who is a community ambassador for CS for All Teachers. That means she's one of our teacher leaders within the community, and she's brought with her Kiki Prottsman, who is going to share a little bit about the wonderful world of Kiki versus IT. She's got some amazing resources to share, and I think you're really going to enjoy the conversation. So I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to Nicole, but I'll be here as well as Deirdre in the background, and we can support you if you run into any technical issues. So, Nicole?
Thank you, Melissa. I'm super excited about tonight. A little bit about me is I am an ambassador for the CS for All Teachers community. I've had the opportunity to help out with this community for quite a while. This year, my focus has been on webinars. So I've been lucky enough that we get to have Kiki tonight. I teach high school in Salt Lake City, Utah. We have a 7th and 8th grade program along with our regular high school. So I am lucky enough to teach 7th through 12th grade computer science all day long, which is awesome. And I teach Exploring Computer Science. I teach AP Computer Science Principles, and I get to teach a little bit about CS Discoveries. With us tonight, we've got Kiki. Many of you know Kiki. She's had a lot of different roles. She is a champion for responsible computing and equity in both the computer science employment and in education. So she works a lot with girls and women in STEM. She does an amazing job with hands-on traveling circuits, and she has helped out with the Thinkersmith and received the 2013 Google Rise Award. She has been working on a lot of different projects. One of her projects was with Disney on their Wayfinding with Moana tutorial, and with that tutorial, she was recognized for our Golden Halo Award for Best Education Champion, and she's got a YouTube channel, which we're going to learn a little bit more about, and it helped her nab the silver as CVC Innovator of the Year in 2017. So right now, she's currently on an advisory board for Wonder Workshop Robotics, and she's also playing an advisory role in many STEM grant projects, including the Sci Girls Who Code. So I'm super excited that she's going to be talking to us tonight, and I will turn the time over to Kiki to hear about all the many projects she's working on and some of her expertise. So start thinking about some questions you might have for her. We'll have some question and answer time. But if you know Kiki, she has a lot of great wisdom, and she can help anyone out with any grade level and any type of curriculum or content integration. So get your wheels thinking, and we'll turn the time over to Kiki.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. I have been immersed in the world of computer science education for a very long time, and I have kind of started evolving what I've been working on over the last year. So when I came into computer science, I was doing computer science myself as a student in college. That was the first time I was able to start taking it. I honestly didn't even know what it was before that, but I was told if I wanted to make video games and do 3D animation that I needed to learn computer science, and it was not anything near what I thought it was. At the time, I didn't realize that I was one of only 2 women in the class, and I flourished just fine because I was kind of used to being with boys growing up. It didn't bother me. Then when I came back to get my master's in computer science, I was one of only 3 girls in the entire program, and that's when I kind of started to notice. It made me realize that there are often certain types of people that go into computer science, or did back in 2009, who go into computer science. And I started wondering why more people didn't see it as an art form, why they didn't see it as something that was fun and expressive and something that they could be passionate about. And I realized that there wasn't a lot of information about it out there, and that mostly the classes weren't even available until you reached college. So I wanted to do an exploration as to whether you could start teaching computer science to younger children. And at the time, Seymour Papert had done some studies using Logo, and the Scratch people had done a lot of work on their program, although theirs was mostly used for storytelling. It was less about curriculum and more about exploration. And Alice was a thing as well, but that was pretty much all that was out there, and there weren't really any complete sets of curriculum, certainly nothing that taught computer science in the way that we're used to now. So I started a nonprofit, and the nonprofit quickly started gaining ground. We won some awards from Google and some other education awards, and then Code.org came along, and we merged with Code.org, and it became the Code.org curriculum that you all know and love today. So I've spent I spent about 5 years, the last 5 years with Code.org, and then last September, I noticed that, well, before it I started noticing, but finally in September I took action, because there were starting to become lots of different sets of computer science curriculums across all of the grades, and they were getting really good. Some of them, even for kids as young as kindergarten, first grade, the curriculum was getting really good. But they weren't all in places where teachers could actually use them, where they could feasibly be fit into a school day because of the different requirements for schools. And what I wanted to do was start taking care of some of those hanging points, some of those things that kept teachers from bringing it into their school, because this free curriculum's awesome, but it doesn't work for them because of this, or this curriculum that they bought is really cool, but here's the reason they can't use it. I wanted to start helping to take care of the reasons teachers couldn't use it. And so fresh off of my computational thinking and coding for every student book, that was written with teachers in mind, with entry-level computer science teachers in mind, but teachers who had experience in the classroom. And that was doing very well, and teachers were responding to it very well, but it showed that there was still this gap between where people are and where they feel that they need to be to begin teaching computer science. And so I started exploring, doing a little bit of work in that area, and that's when DK came to me and said that they were looking for an author for this coding book for very young kids. So My First Coding Book you'll see there, that's actually a board book. Yay! It's got some tabs that you can pull, and some wheels and some flaps and all of these things for very young kids. I get messages from people whose kids start going over it when they're 4 and 5 and can actually start solving the puzzles at 5 and 6, and that was a lot of fun. From there, I wrote a couple books for Disney. There's this Frozen coding book that is here in the States, and then we had another one that is in Spain only. I'm not sure if it's published yet, though, so I can't say the name of it. But then that's when I really started seeing that it takes more angles than just a curriculum before teachers feel like this is a holistic, fun experience to bring into their classroom. So those are some of my books that are currently out there. And then I have a new book coming July 2nd called How to Be a Coder, and I'm very, very excited about this one. I mean, I've loved all the books I've done so far, or else I wouldn't have done them. But there's something very special about this one, and it is that the unplugged activities are very close to my heart. So being able to compare things that people do in their everyday life and teach them where the computer science and computational thinking concepts are in that. I think that is just priceless as far as education is concerned. And I believe that as teachers, we all know that if we can show kids how something relates to their actual life, why they should care about it, they're more likely to be invested in learning it than if they think it's just a school subject. So this book, you'll see by kind of the cover there, we have hands-on activities. We teach events by blowing up colorful balloons, and whenever somebody touches a balloon in a certain way, it causes the other person who's watching to do something funny, and then the person who's playing with the balloons has to figure out what event do they do that causes this action. We make scones to teach about input and output. So we make a savory scone and a sweet scone, and the inputs that you put in determine the output that you get out. And so the whole first half of it is these hands-on arts and crafts projects that use the terminology of computer science. And then in the end, it ends with taking each of those concepts and translating it to Scratch 3, so that students can actually get some programming experience, and it gives them a step-by-step tutorial. So that comes out July 2nd, which is still a little ways away, but I'm very excited. And this is part of their How to Be a series. So they already have How to Be a Scientist and How to Be an Engineer. I'm so lucky I got to write the How to Be a Coder version. All of this is, thank you for that, everyone. I really do enjoy helping people see computer science as something other than just a very hard subject. It is very hard, and we'll actually talk more about that later. But the thing that is so unique about computer science is that it really is, it's like art and math and writing and everything all blended into one. So you're making something that's creative and expressive, and it very much shows who you are, but it also does something, and it can make the world a better place. And there's so few subjects that just fully wrap yourself up in one little product that you can then share with the world, that I'm just always in awe that more people don't experience this or are terrified of it. And so I'm trying to do things to show, yeah, this is hard. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, but you can do it and it will be worth it. And the books really started to kind of open that up a little bit, but there's something about just seeing a video. There's something about just being able to watch somebody do something, and even if they're struggling with it when they do it, when they solve it and come out the other side and you get to have that aha moment alongside of them, that is where true magic happens, especially for a teacher who didn't learn this in elementary school. The teachers of today, most of us didn't have computer science when we were in elementary or middle school, and many of us didn't have it when we were in high school. So this is a whole new frontier. And if you can see just a presentation of what the stuff really is, maybe with a little bit of humor added, then it makes it all a lot easier to kind of digest. And my channel, I didn't know what I wanted it to be when I started out. So it kind of started as just a mishmash of, hey, I'm a tech person and I want to show you what it looks like because I fail a lot and it's kind of funny to watch me. But then I noticed that it was mostly teachers who were watching, and I started a series called Friday Fun Facts, and they were just 1-minute factoids that teachers could watch or show their students that make your eyes go, whoa, I didn't realize that, and kind of draw you into this world of technology and computer science. And then I started noticing that there are so many new tutorials and pieces of curriculum out there, teachers don't even know where to start. So if I could just play some of them on camera and show people what it's like to experience them, then maybe they will feel like there's a little less pressure trying to decide what's the right thing to do. And they can just watch through a whole bunch of them and see what works best for the classroom. So I started doing that. At one point, I thought it would be fun to do kind of a live code along with me. And I did one called Saturday Morning. I think it was called Saturday Morning Coding with Your Cartoons. But that got no traction whatsoever. Nobody wanted to come code with me Saturday mornings. So that didn't last very long. And now that I'm really immersed more into this making things easier for teacher culture, what I've started is a small video series on what is and my first couple, like what is a instruction, what is an algorithm, what is a statement, it literally, they're 35, 45-second videos that show you an example of what these things are in a few different languages so that students can tell the difference, because the difference between an algorithm and a program or an instruction and a statement, those words mean something and they mean something different, but unless you've been doing this a while, it's not easy to see what that is. So with that, I was going to suggest that we give you 30, 45 seconds to pop over and watch the What is an Algorithm video. It is the first link in the web links section to your bottom left, if everybody sees that. Oh, Naomi! Naomi's been actively looking for one of my secretly placed signed books in Barnes & Noble. So every time I go to a new city, I go find the small toy stores and the Barnes & Nobles and bookstores that have my books, and then I just secretly sign them. I don't even always ask the store manager if I can. I'll just sign them. When the store manager knows, they'll usually put a big old sticker, and then it's not a secret anymore. But yes, especially if you live in Portland or Seattle, Oregon, or Chicago, you probably have a chance of getting one of those. Oh, it says, I'm on my phone and web links aren't supported. Can someone pop the link in the chat as well? Is there someone that can do that for me real quick? Nicole, can you do that?
Yep, I will. And if you go out to the video, to come back in, if you look at the bottom of your bar, you'll be able to find the Adobe Connect to come back into the webinar. So I will get that link.
Great. Oh, thanks. Naomi did it. I hope I'm saying your name right, Naomi. And so I'm going to stop saying anything interesting for 45 seconds just so you can watch that video. All right, people are starting to come back. Welcome back. And while we're waiting for the last couple of people to come back, I just will share my social media. I am most active on Twitter. And so if you have any requests for videos or questions or thoughts that you want to share with me, Twitter is a great place because I can respond really quickly. I can add stuff to my video list. I love making videos that people request because then I know they'll be helpful. So Twitter is a great place for that. My Pinterest board has not been very active over the last year or so, but I do still, if I find stuff that's not mine, occasionally I'll post it to Pinterest for teachers. And oh yes, I want you to really unleash those requests. And Facebook, whenever I have something interesting to share, Facebook is usually what I use to put information out. So when I have a new video or a new product or anything, I will usually put something on Facebook to share about it. And then I'm just starting to get into Instagram. I did a few things pretty forced on my account at the beginning of the year and last year. This year I'm getting into it personally, so I expect my KikivsIT Instagram, to start kicking up a little bit. Yes, this webinar is recorded, so you will be able to share this later and refer back to it if you want help. But I would love to know if you want to put in the chat box how do you look for information short of a Google search? If you're going to ask questions or look at what people are up to, if you want to be able to keep in touch with me, what social media do you use? I'd really like to know. Now, I told you about the books that I'm doing. I told you about my website, but there are some other things that I'm working on. Many of them still in the CS space, but some of them have kind of left the computer science specific space, and it's going to bigger ideas that need to be almost foundational to learning computer science. And one of those things is team building. So a lot of what we hear is that if computer science education is not done right, it can actually widen that gap between kind of the haves and the have-nots, or basically they call it a digital divide, and you can make that divide bigger. One of the things that can help stem that, no pun intended, is to do a little more team building with your classes before you start computer science, to make sure that your teams, your classrooms, feel like they're there to work together and not necessarily compete against each other. So I'm doing more research on what it means to team build in a classroom setting. I'm writing papers on it. I'm creating lessons on it. And I'm going to start kind of linking the computer science and team building ideas together. And hopefully that will do more to enrich and help make that digital divide a little bit smaller. Also, as part of that, I'm doing a series on making hard subjects fun, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a minute, and one on getting ready to learn computer science. Because like I mentioned before, a lot of people feel like there is still a huge gap between where they are and where they need to be to start learning computer science. And if nobody ever tells you how to bridge that gap, you might always think of yourself as somebody who is not going to learn computer science because you haven't been prepped, you haven't been primed. But really that gap, while it's small, it's fairly psychological. So that makes it huge in a way. And so we have to deal with that psychological element, and then students can be prepared to start learning and teachers can be prepared to start teaching. But once you get over that kind of psychological bit, everything becomes much easier. In the meantime, that is a true hurdle that needs to be jumped. And then my website, Steam Blender, it's steamblender.com, and that's kind of whenever I make an activity, I put it there so that people can download it and try it with their classroom. And so all of these ideas are going to be kind of blending together on Steam Blender. And then my Patreon site is, I put this on there because having a website is great, having social media is great, but having one place where people can go to know that they can support computer science and they can contribute to making these kind of activities and to making them better and to request things for their situation personally, I think that's always important too. So Patreon is my Patreon site, which is KikivsIT, or KikivsIT, is a place that you can also go to see what projects I'm working on and how you can contribute to make those projects happen. Already talked about my videos, already talked about Steam Blender. So I think we're ready to find out a little bit more about you as an audience. I would like to find out how many of you know what AR is, or if you've played with it before. Do we have a poll, Nicole? Hey, here we go.
Let's bring the poll in. I love these polls because on your screen you see radio buttons, and if you don't mind just looking at the different options for the radio buttons, it will live tell us a little bit about your experience with augmented reality. So we've got, yes, I've tried it out and it was amazing. Yes, I've tried it, but I have lots of questions. No, but I've heard about it before, and no, but it looks really exciting. So if you can share with us a little bit about your experience tonight, this will kind of guide us in our conversation so we can help you. So it looks like we've got 4 folks who have tried it, and it was amazing. The success was always great.
Yay.
We've got someone who's tried it but has questions, and we've got someone who has not yet tried it before. So we're going to have to try to convert this person who hasn't tried it to want to be a doer and go try it on Monday. That's what I love about webinars, is that you hear things, you get great ideas, and then on Monday you can go try it out. And then you've got this network of people online here, and Kiki, who you can email and be like, hey, I'm trying this out, I got to set it up, help me out, or here was my success, let's cheer, or hey, that didn't work so well, can I get some help with these little snags? So let's go ahead and bring back the slide presentation. Kind of have a feel now of who we have in our audience here, so we can kind of gear the conversation to help you out.
Yes. All right, so it sounds like everybody has at least heard of it and knows to some degree what augmented reality is. If you're not fully engaged in the space, and for those who are watching this recorded and maybe don't know what augmented reality is, virtual reality has hit the scene in a large way over this last couple of years, and virtual reality usually requires some kind of goggles to fully block out the outside world and put their own world in front of your face. Augmented reality includes virtual reality, but it's also a lot more. So augmented means that you've changed reality in some way. So a lot of times when they use the term AR instead of VR, they're referring to something where you can see your actual environment, but also something weird or special that they've done to it for the sake of novelty or for the sake of education. And I've been playing with that a lot lately. So I started because I wanted to be able to have an augmented reality element to my books that I was writing personally, and I thought that it would be really fun to be able to hold your phone over a page of a book and have something special appear. And I realized that at the time there was no software kind of for just a random person to be able to add that to their content. So I started learning how to program with it on Unity, just doing it the same way that all developers do it, and it was fun. It turned out that it is difficult and there are a lot of steps to it, but it is very possible to learn how to do it. And so I started adding some augmented reality to some of the things that I was doing, and I felt like it was very exciting. So one of the very first thing I did educationally was this worksheet. So I have these worksheets for sale. I'm not supposed to say, sorry. I've made these worksheets and put them out there, and just as a computer science worksheet, they're useful because this is kind of when a student is coding, then they have to figure out what code makes a character get from A to B, often in the at least K through 5 world, or sometimes even the 6 through 8 world. But the ability to be able to see code that's there and predict what it will make the character do, that is also a skill. So I wanted to have those types of activities to supplement what students were already doing in their coding lessons, and something that they could do offline if the network went down or if the computers were unavailable for some reason. And so then what I did is I had almost like a checking your answer sheet. So I wanted to be able to have the students hold their tablets or hold this up to their Chromebook or something, and then have them see the character actually float down to where it was supposed to be, to kind of check their own worksheet as their worksheet in real time without the teacher having to come over and check it for them. So that was the first thing I created, and the video is there in the web links under AR Worksheet, but we also had Naomi put it up. I believe it's that second link up there above where the first link was. And this is only, I think, a 45-second video. So if you're interested in watching the video of how this works, you can watch that real quick. I went to the airport in order to have a child of the right age kind of test this worksheet and give me an authentic reaction. And going up and asking the parents, can I borrow your child for a moment, was very interesting in today's climate, but it all turned out well, and that's what you'll see in the video. So I'll give you about 45 seconds to click over there. Please let me know in the in the chat box when you're back. All right. I know, it is cool, right? And it's one of these few things that still exists in the world that will blow students, they'll just blow their minds. That just kind of makes them go, whoa, because it's magic. It's like almost Harry Potter level magic. And it's fun for them to really see that this was made using computer science. Like, this is the kind of whoa experience you can create for students when you grow up if you learn how to do this stuff. Augmented reality is very much like just creating any app where it shows you a picture or it shows you a movie. The difference is that it uses your camera to kind of see what's behind it, and then it overlays what you have. And in the case of what I was doing, you have an image target. So this would be my image target, and I uploaded the important parts of this image to a database and said, when you see these particular markers, so if you'll see there's some decoration here. Oh, those lights aren't going to be handy. There's some little bubbles that just look like decoration. Well, honestly, the marks that it makes where the bubbles cross the arrows or the bubbles cross the lines, those are unique markings that the augmented reality can find and say, oh, here are those markings the specific distance apart. When I see that, I know to replace it with or overlay a video on top of it, and I know how to line it up because those markings are there. And if the paper goes like this, the video goes like that because it can tell where it is in space based on those markings. So even though it's a little harder than just, oh, replace this with this, because I have to be knowledgeable enough to figure out what kind of markings I need to put on every different worksheet so that it can tell the worksheets apart, it still is something that once you get into it, it's completely viable that you could do this in many different areas. So augmented reality has come a long way, and very soon there will be apps so that students can do it drag and drop. It's not going to be more than 2 years, I think, before that's out there. But for now, it's a relatively painstaking experience, and in order for me to be able to give the app to other people to use, I have to pay them $500 to license it. So once that $500 has come through, then I will license that app and I can start giving it to teachers, and we can start actually using this kind of stuff in the classroom. Now, there's another use for this that is more entertainment value. And what I've done is I've created these little stickers, and these are set to just print out on Avery labels. So teachers can take the file that they just download off the web, and they print them out on Avery labels, and so they have an unlimited supply of these stickers. They can just print them out whenever they need new ones. And then they say, hey, you did a great job. Let's see if I can get this on. You did a great job. I am going to give you this sticker, and you can put this sticker on your paper. And so then the student puts their sticker on their paper. And then, again, the same app they use for that, the same app that they use for coding. If they're using an iPhone to code, if they're using an iPad, if they're using a Google Chromebook to code, they can just use the camera on that, and then they hold it up, and then they can see that sticker come to life just right on their paper, which is so much fun. And in this case, it's just like a squeal giggle value, but it can be so much more. The next set of things I want to do once I can license the app is to do posters for the classroom. I want to have posters, and even if they're famous computer scientists, then the person can go over and hold the camera up to the poster, and the computer scientist can say something, or like pop-up text can come up on the poster to show the students things. And then the next bit after that would be taking something and being able to code it in such a way that if you did it in the right order, you get a celebration screen. So you could literally do a scavenger hunt in your classroom where kids have to answer questions and go a certain place based off of the answers. And you could get a poster pack that is a do-it-yourself scavenger hunt. Wouldn't that be cool? So there's all sorts of learning applications for this type of software. The problem is that the people who generally know how to use this kind of software and are funding the projects aren't generally the educators. And so sometimes we get a real, you hit a wall with how useful this stuff is in the classroom. But when you have a teacher that knows what teachers need, who can also create the stuff, then the possibilities are really endless. The difficult part about education being getting the money to make all this stuff happen, as you know. So that's the augmented reality stuff that I've been working on. And it really is there to keep that wow value going. I'm going to skip team building for a minute and come over here to making hard subjects fun, because that's really one of the reasons for these stickers, for the augmented reality worksheets, is kind of adding that wow value back in and that magic back in. One of the topics that I've been exploring is this idea of how to teach hard things. So one of my mottos with computer science has always been, you can teach this wrong. You can do more harm than good. And so I want people to see that it's not about taking a subject and going as deep as you possibly can, as fast as you possibly can, because that's not necessarily going to be helpful. But, oh, bye. I'll miss you. I'll see you in the recording next time. But if you can take even a difficult piece of computer science and you can make it meaningful and you can make it memorable in a positive way, then it's bound to resonate more deeply with people. And computer science is a hard subject. It's a very hard subject. And it's one of those subjects that doesn't get easier. So if you're in computer science, it's kind of just always going to be hard, because you're always going to be ready to solve new kinds of problems. And there will always be things you want to do that no one has really done before, or not enough people have done it before to document it on the web. So you kind of have to get used to the tension and the stress and the frustration that computer science can cause. But learning how to deal with the tension and the stress and the frustration is critical to all kinds of learning. So if we can start by harnessing that in computer science, exposing it in computer science, teaching kids this stuff in computer science, then let them transfer that all through all of their subjects. What we're doing is making more powerful learners, period. And it could be said that that is then making more educated people, period, which I think is a good thing. But there is a trick to this, right? Because you can't just bombard somebody with something difficult for an hour a day, every single day, 5 days a week, 10 weeks in a term, and expect they'll come out the other side unscathed. That doesn't happen. So I'm trying to encourage students to, or encourage teachers to think of their education stream with difficult subjects in much the same way that you might see in a movie. So if you see a very intense movie or a very scary movie, those movies are not generally intense all the way through or scary all the way through. They usually build up to something, have some sort of huge climactic moment, and then drop way down and give the audience a breather while they kind of recover. And then they build up again, and maybe they'll get to a moment and it's powerful and huge. And then they do one more after that that's even more powerful and huge. And then they give a brain break or comic relief or whatever it happens to be. They ebb and flow it so that it doesn't stay too intense for very long. And so one of the projects that I'm working on right now is trying to figure out how to take the like screenwriting skills that you need to create a movie or a TV show and transfer that same psychological success to lesson plan writing and to doing lesson plans in the classroom. And while right now that seems like a really kind of strange idea, and maybe it will hit, maybe it will miss, I do think that there have been years of research and people vote with their dollars as to what movies are most successful. And I think that those same things that we're seeing time and time again become blockbusters, the psychological work that they do in there and the ebb and flow of how they present things in there could be transferred over to the ebb and flow of a classroom. So I'm trying to figure out what those nuggets are and do some work surrounding that. Phew, that was a lot. Okay. I talked a bit about team building for the classroom. I'm going to talk a little bit about what it is and why it's important and how we get started. So the work I'm doing in team building, I didn't introduce this as part of what I did because I usually skip over it since my Kiki versus IT is so focused on teaching computer science in the classroom. But a big part of what I did before I created Thinkersmith and even as part of Thinkersmith was professional development. And even in code.org, my first couple years was heavily embroiled in creating professional development and delivering professional development. So it was very important that professional development be entertaining and that it be something where teachers leave feeling stronger than when they came in. And in order to bond people all around a very difficult topic and something very new and get people to open up and feel like they were safe to try something new, the very first thing we had to do was team building. And it stands to reason that that would also work in the classroom. And a lot of teachers do small things here and there to prep their class to work together or to just give their class some brain breaks, but they don't always use the vocabulary and actually call out the fact that they want their classroom to see each other as a team, as a group that works together and supports each other. And calling that out and actually putting those words in a student's head will help them be able to identify, I don't feel like this person is being a very good teammate. And then something can be addressed and fixed. Or I realize I haven't been being a very good teammate. And then they can get some skills to figure out how to be a better teammate. And it doesn't mean they have to be best friends. It doesn't mean they have to hang out after school. But it does mean that you need to learn to work together. And so I think giving that, just giving that a name is going to really change the trajectory of the classroom. So that's where the research is coming in. the reason it's important is because it really makes kids feel like they can let their guard down and they won't get humiliated and they won't be laughed at, and they know that they're in a supportive environment where they can do that kind of stuff. Um, I don't sleep. Thank you for that comment. And then how do we get started? That is something that I just dove in, and I wrote a little paper about it, and I put up a new lesson plan about it. And the lesson plan, unfortunately, I wasn't able to do standards for it because I leave the actual activity up to the teacher. But what I do instead is I talk about how to set it up, how to start with your classroom and tell your classroom what you're doing and why it's important, and then leave it up to you to choose an activity that is centered around everyone cooperating and solving a challenge rather than competing against each other. And then I give you a wrap up and a way to wrap up what you did, help people realize what was going on, see if they could figure out what are good teammate behaviors and what are not good teammate behaviors. Doing that very first, having an actual, this is a team building activity, sets it up so that in the future, you can just do little games like in replacing Heads Up 7 Up with some other kind of just quick little activity that you can do team building things. And the students will be able to use that to strengthen the team building instead of just as a 15-minute time killer because a lesson was over early. So yes, things like breakout EDUs are great. They're really good. There are some board games even out there that are really good. And in math, forget about it. You have so many dice games and card games and things like that you can use as team building activities. Just super, super powerful and flexible depending on your subject. So that was everything. I got through it. I can't believe it. And now it's your time. So I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what your questions are. And either you can chat your questions or you can open your mic and just ask them to me. Nicole, I realized we were kind of going to do this like an interview, a back and forth, and then I just...
So this is great. This is perfect. I think it's important for people to be able to ask you, how often do you get like 5 minutes with Kiki to find out how to do things? You have a lot of resources shared in the left. We will have links on the last slide where you can take a picture with your phone or whatever, where you can see how to get a hold of Kiki or where to get resources for Kiki. So definitely know that you will be able to connect with Kiki. But anything that you need would be helpful. It looks like Melissa's posted on the left that we'll update the link to the PowerPoint and the recording in a couple of days. So we'll share with you how to get onto the community and how to find it. But ask away.
I would love to know things about where your sticking points are. What kind of things do you teach? What do you wish you could teach? What are the hurdles that you're trying to face? Or what do you dread most?
It looks like your mics are available now. You've been unmuted. So you can go ahead and raise your hand. It looks like we've got a hand raised over here. So
is it Sherry? Is that how we say your name? It looks like there's something I'm supposed to be able to click to let Sherry know it's her turn, but I can't see it.
So go ahead, Sherry, you can just ask away.
Okay. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. This is the first time I've spoke. This is the first time I've spoken one. I've always just listened. But today I actually experimented with Modbox in our VR lab, and I brought some of my students over, and we watched a quick introductory video, and we each had a task to create 4 entities, and when we pressed run, one of them would be suspended. And I myself had never experienced Modbox before, so the students were kind of helping me, but it was the most intriguing thing. And the kids, when the bell sounded for them to leave, no one wanted to leave. We had been doing Scratch in an introductory coding class, and this is only my second year teaching it. And we are kind of leaning more towards augmented reality and virtual reality, and it's really growing. And so I just wanted to know, had you experienced Modbox yet?
I have not personally. I'm aware of them because I've seen a lot of stuff going around about kind of all the newest trends, how they come in and hit the scene. And I've had people on my Facebook page. I have a coding in class Facebook page that goes along with my computational thinking book. And people have mentioned that they use that and think of it as one of the best places to spend their money if they're just getting into computer science. So I definitely heard great things. I just haven't played with one yet.
Well, that was probably my next question, because the class I'm teaching right now, which is seventh grade class, and they were rotations of about 4 sections, 9 weeks each, they're now going to transfer to the eighth grade, and I'm going to teach them a semester-long course. And we're trying to think of projects to sort of segue from scratch into maybe a text-based, but just a little small introductory, because it can be, like you said, overwhelming, and the industry is constantly changing, but we want to kind of lean them more towards VR. So I was just trying to maybe get resources of some type of project or something that I can teach them with augmented reality or virtual reality. I kind of joined the game here a little bit late. I was about 30 minutes late. So I would love access to these slides and possibly to be able to reach out to you for some of your resources.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely tweet to me, and then we can get in touch that way. Or I have a Kiki versus IT page on Facebook that we can kind of have conversations that other people can benefit from as well. I mentioned briefly that augmented reality is not yet at the place where it's simple. At the moment, the biggest augmented reality resources are the same things that the industry uses, which are pretty intense. But it's probably only a year or two away from when they're going to be simplified and ready for classroom use. And that is creating augmented reality. But as far as being able to use it for cool things, that is approaching much more rapidly. Uh, as far as doing something next term, I can't think of anything that uses augmented reality or virtual reality. But I am a really big fan of microbits, and especially for that transition from block-based languages to text-based languages. I think microbit is a great little inexpensive piece of hardware that can kind of help you cross that bridge and still do really powerful things with very little work. So uh, what you get back for what you put in is always something that's really inspiring. And if you could put in a little bit of work and get something super useful back, that's always really cool. And I think that that happens with microbit.
Mm-hmm.
I did see a question from Naomi here. Can you share an example of the perfect starting activity for K2, 3-5, and 6-8? I have some ideas, but I want to hear yours. And Naomi, is that the perfect starting like computer science activity? Are you wanting just one, or are you wanting a set of curriculum? What was your intention there? Okay, I'll hold on that for a while I wait for her to answer that question. And
And we've
then,
got a question by Edwin. Let's do a question by Edwin, and then we can actually
there's
create a
actually,
chat in the CS for All Teachers community and on Kiki's Twitter page, because we've only got like 4 more minutes, and I want to keep these questions going because this is awesome. But let's hear from Edwin real quick, and then we will go ahead and we will be able to continue the chat and all sorts of resources, and then Edwin's still there. So Edwin.
all right.
We're not
Okay,
able to hear you if you're talking, Edwin. If you want to try again.
or you can use the chat. Oh, there you are. Maybe not.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, very lightly.
Okay, I'll try to speak up a little louder. Hopefully that works.
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
All right, I guess I'm having technical difficulties over here.
Do you want to try going ahead and typing it in the chat window, and I will answer, is it Tiara's question in the meantime?
All right, can
Okay,
you hear
yeah.
me
Go
now?
ahead. Now I can hear you.
Okay, I'm getting augmented virtual reality computers in my lab next year, and I'm looking at an entry point to get in for high school students, 9th through 12th grade. I want them to get into AR, VR, creating stuff. Do I need special helmets or the glasses, or besides using their phones? What else can I do, and what type of curriculums will be a good entry point?
Okay, so as far as I know, there's not a curriculum out there yet. If there is, it's brand new, and I don't know about it. There should be good stuff coming around the pike, but nothing that I know of that's out there yet. As far as like a curriculum intended for, say, high schoolers, the most common thing people are using right now is Unity. So there are lots of YouTube videos on Unity and how to use that well with augmented and virtual reality. You can certainly choose a few videos and try and figure out what looks like your students would be most capable of doing, and then kind of put something together based on those. There are new glasses coming out, I believe, from, I want to say HP, that are intended to be more educational and business minded. There are some new glasses coming out that aren't the entire like Oculus set. They're just glasses. But I think if you want to stick to augmented reality, not the virtual, just the augmented, just using regular old phones and tablets is just as exciting and in many ways more useful. We only have 1 minute left, and unfortunately we're going to have to wrap this up. Sorry I didn't get to answer everybody's questions, but again, please feel free to tweet to me or write on my Facebook page, and I will see how I can help you. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Kiki, for joining us and sharing all of these awesome activities that you're working on. As we can tell, you don't sleep because there's so many things that you are willing to share with teachers. And I think that's the amazing piece of knowing what teachers need and being willing to help out. So we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. We'll turn the time back over to Melissa. But I do want to thank Kiki for being with us tonight.
My pleasure.
Yes, absolutely. It has been wonderful. I think this is probably one of the most active chats that I've seen, with just tons and tons of ideas here. Nicole, we'll make sure we get you a copy of this chat too, so that as you're working on the discussion thread in the community, you can build from what's here. As you see on the screen, there's a couple of upcoming activities that are going to be led by our other, one other community ambassador, Bobby. On the 22nd, he's doing a webinar featuring Jake Baskin, the CSTA Executive Director, about how to strengthen your local CS community, and thinking about ways that you can. It's great to have this work that we do virtually, but it's always great to be able to build those face-to-face connections as well. And then on the 29th, we're doing a webinar around incorporating AI, or artificial intelligence, into K-12 CS. I'm going to have a wonderful guest with us and talking through ideas there. So lots of great opportunities for you to learn and do. If you're not already a member of CS for All Teachers, I know a number of you may follow us on Twitter, but we hope that you will also join the community, where Nicole will be including information and kind of continuing the discussion in a thread in the community space. I've I put into the chat window, and it'll also be available when we close out of the room, the webinar feedback form. We love to hear from you about how well we do these webinars. And yeah, we just thank you for all that you're doing, and look forward to seeing you soon in the community. So have a great night, everyone. We appreciate you. And happy Teacher Appreciation Week. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.